Hey, Salman.
Hey, Michael, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I had a really good weekend. My daughter came in to visit me from Arizona for 4 days, so it's been really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Nah, that's great.
yeah,
That's
yes.
great.
She was able to get a couple days off. She works at a hospital, so most of her weeks are like 6, 7 day weeks, just grinding. So she's like, "I'm taking 4 days. I'm coming home. You're taking me to the beach." I'm like, "Okay."
Nice.
So it was good. It was really good. How about you? How's your weekend?
It was good. I went up to St. Augustine to hang out with my sister-in-law and that side of the family. And then yesterday, the missus and I we went and stayed near Titusville so we could see the Blue Origin launch,
Nice.
which was super cloudy, so we didn't see it very well. We didn't get close there because the traffic is just stupid, but yeah, yeah.
Right on, right on. Cool. I threw together an agenda. I got a couple of new items on there, and
Okay.
I just closed out all the comments on the CCAF, and
Okay.
I'm gonna hit send today to the TAC,
Okay.
and you'll be in the loop, of course, and we'll sort of like um, just make sure that they don't go too far to the left on us or something.
Right.
Yeah, I have a hope in here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but my hope is we're going to have enough meat to create a guidance or even a first attempt at a common criteria profile,
Right.
so that we're like, hey, this is what you want to hand to the suppliers, this is what you want to hand to the regulators, and like it's always bespoke. But if we have it mapped back to the CCAF, like that would be a super win, right? Because
Exactly. Yeah. Especially
it's
if you
like
have a common taxonomy,
exactly.
that is critical, right? That is critical. Um,
Exactly.
I
And
shared
and
some
that
of the. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
and I was going to say that last bit on the CCF part. I think it's got a lot of what its real value is in my eyes is those levels and sort of how
Right.
you progress there, and it gives an organization a goal if they're way down in the bottom and they can sort of shoot for the stars, but they might already have some things in reach already when they're cloud providers that might be like, hey, I'm at a 4 if I
Yeah.
do this thing with turn the switch on and do key management the right way or whatever. So
So it's funny is I've been involved in quite a few conversations right now in my space around how to adopt confidential computing solutions for our vendors, right? And so um, one of them that just recently came up, they wanted to use confidential computing in our space because they don't want us to have access to their models, but we are wanting them to run on AWS, and we understand how limiting that is because basically can only use enclaves for that. So they were like, we walked down the attestable EC2 route. I don't know if you're very familiar with that, but
mm-mm.
it's basically Amazon has come up with this attestable EC2. So they take their TPM on the
Ah,
Nitro board, take a measurement of the system at runtime, and then provide an attestation document that's digitally signed, right? So they do the first step of it, right? And the vendor was super excited about it, and they kept calling it confidential computing. And after the third time, I was like, "That's not confidential computing. Like that's it's a component. You have a component of it, but it's
yeah,
not actually." I said, and here's the reason why. And I walked them through it. You have assurance at runtime. You do not have assurance throughout the life cycle of that system, and you have network connectivity and directly attached stores that is not within the trust boundary. So you do not have
right.
not in the TCB. And I finally had to tell him, I said, you don't even have encrypted memory space that isolates your model from the
Right.
processor or any of the OS. I said, so there's nothing you have assurance of what it was at runtime, and that's about it. And since it's running an RVPC, not to say devil's advocate, but you can't say whether or not we accessed your model. Like,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
but that's where, sorry, that whole thing is
Yeah.
that's when I was explaining to him, that's why I was thinking about the calf as I was explaining to him. Like,
hmm
if
Yeah.
all you need is attestation, cool. You can like a level one, uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. I was talking to so we have lots of weird customers. Some of them are like they don't even know what an HSM is, let alone care about, confidential. And
Right.
some are like, I want to create this like super secret mesh that is running the world and confidentiality for everybody. And like it's interesting because like the difference between the two, there's not a lot of gray area in between. It's usually
Mhm.
like the only thing I'd say be in the middle, like somebody just wants to run a some kind of Docker image. Like I want it to be confidential because it's got a model in it. That's probably the most common that I see that's not in that
Yeah.
extreme camp. And in the extreme camp, like it's military and
Yeah.
allied forces working together type things. We're like we all trust each other, but we can't trust each other's infrastructure by design. Like
Right. Yeah.
I got to be able, if Poland goes rogue on me, I got to be able to pull the plug and say Poland can't connect to my side of the equation, but it doesn't stop Finland and whoever
Yeah.
else operating with us. So
Yeah.
those type of designs, confidential compute is still like that's their ultimate goal. But even with what Google has and the rest of the market, you either all have to follow the same, vendor selection, like you all have to pick the same one. And if you're NATO, you're 32 countries, but you have
Yeah.
opinions, right?
Right.
And so like
And
I was like, like how do you guys think about like just putting all your chips into one cloud vendor? Like scares the crap out of us. Like we
right.
don't want to do that. We
Right.
want diversity. We want self-hosting. We need European only options. And
Yeah. Well, I think
so
it becomes it maybe becomes a little bit more flexible. And I'm working this theory through my mind though, where it becomes a little bit more flexible, a little bit easier to do is in the Azure slash GCP space, right? Because both of those with their confidential VMs allow for the use of, say, NVIDIA H100 cards or AMD
mhm,
set, right? And the verifier service is independent of the cloud service provider. It's
mhm,
it's the chip manufacturer. AWS locks you into their ecosystem, and that's where I think the
yeah,
big limiting factor is. The problem that I have, or the challenge that I have, is that so many, especially in the financial services space, so many of us are vendor locked on AWS that it complicates what deployment patterns we could use
sure,
in this space. Like with that person with the model, I laid it out for him. We could do this on Azure GCP. We could actually get to this at that point, but because this solution that the internal line of business built, is locked into AWS,
right,
we're kind of stuck. So
yeah.
yeah, I'd be interested to know what your NATO partners think about that part, where the you know
Taking a couple, take a hybrid approach is basically where most of them land. They also try to do some self-hosting
yeah
solutions where like, okay, we're gonna run. Yes, there's always gonna be some critical components that just can't be cloud-based anyways. So,
right.
they already have an investment somewhere that they're
But that's why I
managing.
think, yeah, that's why I think though that having moving it to the hardware manufacturers for the chips helps to diversify that, right? Because again, if my enclave is running inside an H100 card sitting inside, it doesn't matter then if it's on prem or if it's hosted in Azure or if it's hosted over there
Right,
in GCP. Same thing with AMD, right? It doesn't matter
right.
where it's living at that point because the measurements are being taken on the card.
Hey guys,
Hey,
apologies for being late.
no worries. We're just about ready to kick it off. I got some updates from the GV earlier. Well, I guess it was last week. I went to there, so I'll go ahead and get this thing kicked off. And let's see, where is my? There you are. Yeah, just quick call to order. I think it's been 2 weeks since our last one. Thank you, Michael, for putting the bids together. We'll pop those up. I put them in the chat. It's a document, so I probably won't read it all out in this meeting, but you have the link in the chat to go take a look at it. And let me know if you can't get to that link, Ab. I think I have all the permissions right now. We had
Yeah,
some
let me
blockage at
double
one point.
check and yeah, sure.
Um, yeah, I think no new members today, so that's good. I'll give you some administrative updates. So that's going to be last Wednesday, I think it was. The governing board met. I'm going to be joining every governing board meetings every month. I think it is. The cadence is every 4 weeks. And I basically going to show up and give an update and report. So I gave them an initial one this last Wednesday. It was good. I think for the most part, the feedback I got is everybody was very excited about it. There was definitely some questions around things like what's the difference between GRC and regulations and standards. I try to do best job I could to help sort of segment and separate that so people understood the differences and the nuance. I think if we had to hold ourselves to a simple focus, it's going to be around creating or identifying the regulation frameworks that actually help us to have a common ground to work on with vendors as well as regulators. So it's pretty good. I think for the most part, I was enjoyed the rest of the meeting too. So all the other SIGs sort of had a readout, including the TAC. TAC's definitely a very busy group. I haven't yet to join, so maybe I'll join one just to sort of audit the class. But it was one of the things I took away as an action item that we'd already talked about 2 weeks ago on our side was sending the TAC a updated version of the CAF and getting their feedback. While we talk today, we should probably like fine tune like what do we want, what guidance do we want to make sure we give them, and what are we seeking from them? Just as much as if I was going to give comment on a technical document, I want to make sure I know what they are looking for me, and us to help comment on. I think the output we're looking for overall is taking the framework that we've talked about to date and extending that into either a proposal or an initial project that actually says, hey, we want to look at where the common criteria or national approved products sort of area meets up with this framework and create the guidance, or at least the skeleton of the guidance for somebody to build their own certification framework, which is usually a profile, some kind of protection profile. So it's filling in all those little gaps. There's a bit of technical, there's definitely the framework. What we're trying to do is make sure that we can make it easy for users and customers to understand where they are in their journey of confidential, just as much as where the regulators are in approving a given regime of controls. So it on the governing board update. Any questions or thoughts?
No, I think more comments.
Yeah.
Because I was on the GP. I second my Hugo AMD side. Yeah, I think I'm sure like many of the members of the CCC, we had the conversations as well with the the BSI, the German BSI, not the British one, as Mike Purcell mentioned. But generally speaking, I mean, there's this kind of in the certification world, as you know, there's the whole FIPS versus common criteria. I don't know if it's versus, but they both exist, right? It's not one against the other. It's just the reality. One is obviously North American, US centric, and the other, like, it just, again, I think generally speaking, and this is more of a general thought. I think trying to see where, like, how we can, one of the nice things about standardizations or open standards, industry standards, or ecosystem or open ecosystem is reducing fragmentation, right? And if there's a way to get some, I know maybe it's wishful thinking, but I think that's one of the challenges as well that we will be facing, because or we will have to live with maybe like US centric and then the rest of the world, and it is what it is. So I think the ISO path, that's what I found the ISO path interesting. At least I would say, in from my perspective, it should be at least, I get the US, the ecosystem, like, for all the different reasons we know. at least for the rest of the world, we should be as you should not like be fragmented, right? That's I think, but that's on the CCC together and all the
Mhm.
members, and I think the fact that competitors coming together, in whether it's in the
Mhm.
cloud or hardware or whatever, that actually is should be the one of the best kind of proof to the regulators that we want this to be it is great technology and it is something that will benefit the ecosystem. This is no like we're not looking for any competitive advantage or anything. Like we are working together, right? So that's something that again, I know it's maybe stating the obvious. I apologize for that, but I think that's something I'm really I see it at the station is the same. Like always the comment that like the customer's like, oh yeah, there's so many of them. Like which one? It just that fragmentation doesn't help, right? For the adoption of
Right.
the confidential computing. So
Sure. Yeah, I would echo your thoughts there. I mean, I grew up in the HSM realm, so
okay,
it's
yeah,
it's always AMD. Or sorry, you're thinking probably my head. It's always going to be FIPS versus common criteria
yeah,
versus
yeah,
something that's nation specific, and there will be like different parts of it. Like there's the overall boundary of the solution, and you're calling an HSM. Can it be used to back? I don't know. A root of trust that's going to power a Swift server somewhere at a
yeah,
bank, right? Like that's got a lot of extras that are industry specific too. And you got PCI when you're doing payments. So there's this other existing ancient world called HSMs that has also this fragmentation that you end up living with it and binding with it. And even every once in a while, we try to come up with some kind of new, shared across standard within the different, vendors that are supporting HSM technology, like, going from PKCS 11 to something like KMIP, which is a specific key management protocol. Um, you can do the same thing with two different things. That came also come from another third party. So you end up with this thing from Oasis that says, hey, this is how you do KMIP. So you end up with these protocol specific stuff, promise specific stuff, and like place, like where and specific. And I think you're right. It is for the utopian view. Like, hey, I'd love to have all the vendors have a normalization of some kind that can build upon what they've already done, so they don't have to start over or anything. Like we find the golden path together, and we know what the room is that we want to build. If we can say this is the room we want to all live
yeah,
in at the end, then we can all create technical paths there. And it shouldn't preclude us from selling our existing solutions,
mm,
but maybe what we're looking for is, it is that ISO standard, room that it always looks like this. It's a 27002 or something like that, or it looks like this. The same thing with I think anything to do with the key management of these things, that's a very sensitive conversation for a lot of organizations. And
yeah,
the German BSI is a very good example. We have a meeting on the 7th of May with them, and we get to tell them what the hell CCC is. They don't know anything about it, and they get to tell us a little bit about what they would look for inside of a standard around confidential, because they do have an opinion, but they haven't got it out. So I think I'm also taking a long-winded version of like, hey, I think
yeah.
we're saying similar things. The fragmentation is a problem. I would love to have a common goal, and we all, the technical side and the regulatory side and the governance side, all could work together to make that
Can
something
I just
adoptable. Yeah.
100% include? I know, Michael, if I don't want to monopolize the conversation. I don't know if you have
No,
any
that's fine.
thoughts.
I think this is really good. No, this is really good. I think the one question I was going to have for Solomon, because I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, is do we feel like our CACAF, our Common Criteria Confidential Computing Assessment Framework, does that advance that goal that we were just describing because it lays out what we expect at different levels and stuff like that?
I think it does, because like zero tells you exactly where a lot of folks are, and
Right.
that just means when I say this could go towards a vendor's capability as well as a customer's implementation, right? They could take the pieces and have that level 5 as their goal. To get there, they're gonna have to put the things together. So I think it does. I think it needs technical support to get ourselves there, to make sure that we're grounded in the realities of how it gets deployed. But I think the implementation side on the vendor side, I mean, I'll defer to you. I'm sure you've got some insights there. But what does that mean for a vendor to participate in a framework, let alone a standard? I guess a regulatory standard.
Yeah. I can. By the way, it is in review internally. So, and I think, but the initial feedback is positive internally when I shared the document with the stakeholders on confidential computing within AMD. So I think that's the initial. But again, we'll see. Obviously, the how we. I think the it's not the concern, but the comment that I heard was like I think maybe a little bit to what Michael you were saying is that basically um, first of all I explained to them what it is, and then there's like, oh, is this another standard or is this another frame? Like, just let's not like that's I'm not
Yeah.
saying that's what it is, but I had to
Sure.
explain it to them. But
Yeah.
the first reaction was like, whoa, is this another one? Like, one of those things,
That's good
certification
feedback.
levels.
Maybe that's something that we want to make clearer in the document,
Yeah,
right off the
yeah.
bat.
That's a good point.
This is not a standard, this is a translation module, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
meant to
So
instruct.
yeah, so I think Solomon, I think a lot of and I when I say the comment, obviously not just to you, but just
Yeah.
collectively as a
Sure.
CCC. When I'm in these meetings, I'm putting my AMD hat to the side because I really am passionate about confidential computing for years now. I really want this to be adopted. Like the analogy I give or the dream to me, like nobody thinks today, it's unthinkable that you will have your storage, whether it's on your laptop or somewhere, not encrypted. That's what I would
Right.
like to get to, right? Like
Yeah.
that's where like everything is that's running is confidential, right? Like that's basically or giving the opportunity to the end customer. I think one of the things okay, I will also wear another hat, which is the outreach committee. So how we message CC to not CC confidential computing to the world, and we making progress. We're not there yet. I think we at one point we thought that I include myself in that statement. In the statement, we thought that we passed the awareness stage, but I was
Mm-hmm.
shocked in many meetings AMD I was in with not the let's say CSPs or like tech people who are in the C like CCC, but let's say an
Mm-hmm.
end customer, financial institution or government like CISOs and CIOs and it was like, huh, what's this? Like, and I,
Yeah.
I assume they know what it is. Like
Right.
my CTO was like, okay, you guys literally like he literally said, CCC, you guys need to do a better job. Like I was like, yeah, point taken. Again, that's on
Mm-hmm.
collectively, as I said, I think an outreach committee, we're trying to do that. We try to simplify that and like a clear value proposition on that. So I think, and that's was my next point about this is that we need maybe to think, in this SIG how the outreach we could leverage the outreach committee. Happy to be the bridge. How we
Okay.
to your point, like Michael, like not another. I like the word like a translation layer or like kind of like what
Right.
the CSAF is the framework, right? So that there's no confusion because otherwise people will be like, oh, not another standard, not another
Right.
certification, not another. I think that's something that
Right.
you know. Yes, there's the actual work of
Mm-hmm.
the technical work on the framework, and then obviously that's the core. But the messaging is equally important in a world that like people
Right.
jump to conclusions immediately, and attention span
Sure.
is really
Really
like
low.
we to the point where, and I'm not saying that's an issue or anything. Well, we'll see how to brand it, right? Do
Sure.
we like again? We're not there yet. Okay, we'll cross that bridge when we
Yeah.
get there.
Uh,
But
yeah.
but the messaging will be as equally, in my opinion, important to get the attention first that people listen, and then be like, oh, that's actually interesting. Oh, I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
about that. Like, and that makes it easier
Right.
for because I think we in the ecosystem that we're in, CCC and whoever touches confidential computing, one way or another, we're okay. We're good. We know it well to a certain extent. They know what it
Sure.
is. you go beyond that initial ring or circle of
Mhm.
technology companies who are involved in this, then it becomes like, what the heck is this, right? So,
Sure.
okay, I'll shut up.
No. I mean, to me, I'm just
Great
playing
feedback.
back my. It's very good feedback. Thank you. For
Yeah.
me, I'm playing back, a chunk of my life, 25 plus years ago, when data at rest wasn't a common thing, and we were
Mm.
trying to convince governments to encrypt their data at rest because somebody might steal your hard drive, it might fall
Yeah.
back of a truck,
Yeah.
whatever the problems were. But like there was a time where like no one understood that was an issue, let alone a solution, let alone a regulation to have a proper implementation.
Mm.
And so just watching that whole world grow to the point where we're at now, like it's just the default. And then,
Yes,
there's like,
exactly.
hell,
Yeah.
even my kids' laptops all have, data at rest encryption on by
Yeah.
default. And like, they know when they're not in a green, browser because it's not, it tells them, hey, I'm not supposed to be here, or this is an unsafe site. So like so much has changed. And I think it is a progressive thing, but there are chances for us to leap forward and lead.
Mm.
And I'm with you. I think the taking, the tech and just to take the whole CCC as
Yeah.
one slide. If I had one slide that says all of these SIGs are working together to bring together a common vision, and that common vision is to make data in use a ubiquitous requirement, solution, and implementation.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're trying to do is like, hey, we got to write the rules for this new destination we want to get to, as a common, new requirement. But just like in those 25 plus years ago, you got to sit down with governments and regulators and whatnot and say, hey, this is a problem you should probably care about, or they might already care about it. Their only solution to date has been, TEEs. So make it work inside of an HSM, which doesn't
Mm.
work for everything. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of room for us to lead the horse to water, as they say, right? That like, hey, this is what you want. Here's where we want to take you. Here's the standards. And the thing I like to spend, a little bit of time on today is we are going to meet with BSI in a little over 2 weeks. We'll have one more meeting before we meet with them. And that Friday morning meeting, it's with a friendly. So I know Stefan Wetzel very well. I've done 3 or 4 different products now through the BSI specifically for high classified information, and it was all key management solutions or whatever. And so the way that like Germany and a couple other national bodies work is they like common criteria for most everything, but then there will be these very specific things like they released last year a key management solution profile and says you must
Mm.
go through this profile. 95% of it looks like a common criteria ELA 4, right?
Mm.
For, just doing key management as an example. And so it's like there's going to be these partners, I should say it that way, where we could find some common ground together. Like, look, we want to not just talk about key management, we want to talk about data in use. And data in use as a regulation, that's common criteria is the general purpose, solution that we're representing. And we want to make sure that we work with you at the governmental level and the regulatory level to find that path towards hey, you must, if you want to use, if you want to use this data or you have this data, you now have to have this data in use, particularly with AI. Like if, for them, when I was talking to them, I was like, look, this is the path to sovereign AI. It's what it is. You have to be able to mix a bunch of stuff in memory and prove that it hasn't been compromised, right? And then they're not leaking and like so on and so forth. So being able to actually put them all together, I think is going to be really important. So I think getting ourselves back on track, for the rest of the meeting today. I think that's going to be one of the goals is like asking smart questions of the BSI around data and use protection requirements that we can try to guide them towards giving us a common profile to work towards. This is what they did with all the key managers and all the HSM vendors over the last decade. So they're, like I said, they're really friendly because they like to lead in these things. So we get the benefit of like I said, asking smart questions with them.
From practical perspective, do you need anything from whether this here at the SIG or anybody else from the CC2 for this meeting in terms of content of like I know you probably have, or is it just a conversation? Whatever you feel like whatever
Yeah,
you need.
yeah, I'll send out as part of the minutes today. I'll send out the agenda that we have with them. It's really light. It's really like, hey, tell us about the CCC, and they're going to tell us about the BSI. And as I said, I want to find a common path, or at least the first steps of a common path towards the an approved product profile, as they call it. Because inside of Germany, it's not all workloads are going to be in that camp. It's like maybe less than 10% of the workloads, but they're always going to have these requirements. So it's good for us to explore bringing in CC to that. So I don't think anything specific, just smart questions, and I'll make sure the invite goes out to everybody that wants to join.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Hey, Jens.
Hi guys,
Hi,
yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, and I joined very late.
worries.
I wanted to definitely join, and also would love to join the next ones. I don't know if I had the pleasure with one of you up. I think we might have talked a bit at some point, but I'm the CTO and founder of Frontier X, and we have a product called Polaris, which enables you to have continuous remote attestation and confidential computing, open source, and mostly open source. But one thing, and the reason why I wanted to join the group is that I'm doing a lot of research with MITRE in the US. MITRE, everyone, okay, perfect. So we're currently working on a standardization framework for continuous remote attestation, which was an initiative coming out of Invari, NSA, and MITRE. And we are working on this already for like 8 or 9 months now, and we're very close to publishing something. I can't share it yet, but I would love to discuss it within this group also, and share it with this group the moment I can, which we should be days away from that. But it's quite exciting, and it's totally focused on the continuous remote attestation, where you extend basically the attestation that you have at startup from a hardware foundation to lots of different layers on top of that help you to provide something that can be called continuous remote attestation. And I had lots of discussions about this with Nathaniel from MD.
Yeah.
And Solomon, I had lots of discussions with René Kolger from your Confidential Spaces team. And very excited about it. Would love to share it with this group. A few days too early, but I wanted to join already.
Well, it's good to put sort of like in the space for the future. I think 2 weeks from now, maybe the next time, if it's ready, we could dedicate 10 minutes or so to dive into it for sure.
Yeah, I think
nice to meet you.
We were actually talking earlier on the call, Salman and I, that one of the components of confidential computing, the attestation component of it, gets a bit limited if you can't, if like I gave the example of AWS as a testable EC2, where great, you knew what it was at runtime, but you had no idea what happened to it after it started, which is problematic for a lot of customers because of the limitation of AWS's enclaves, right? So yeah, I'm very interested in hearing more about this solution and is it software based, hardware based? How exactly does that continuous attestation process work? And the fact that you're tying it into with MITRE for, I'm assuming, to address some sort of TTP around it. I definitely want to have a conversation with you around this.
Yeah, no, it's an exciting time. We're also talking to the confidential computing team at AWS because, Nitro has some limitations on that, right?
Just a little.
Just a little bit, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a topic, and but it becomes more and more important, right? We have, especially with the developments also politically with the European Union, they want to create environments, and sometimes even have to, where they don't have to rely on a US-based cloud provider and so on. So we're purists at Frontier X, right? We want to really have it all derived from the hardware, from the silicon itself. That's what we're trying to achieve. You can't always achieve that, as seen in AWS, but yeah, we can with the great combination between GCP and AMD. By the way, with the SVSM, we're working on that directly, where you have the different layers, which is super valuable for the continuous part, and I can elaborate on all of that in the next weeks. It's quite exciting, I think. No, I'm really looking forward to publish this. We normally would have published like 3-4 weeks ago, but with the Iran topic, there were a few new requirements coming in because there's a lot going on right now with AI. There were a few new requirements, and we wanted to address that in the framework that we put out. Obviously, a lot of that is government driven and what they really would like to see, but we try to keep it dual use as much as we can. So it goes to a very high security level, but also there are layers, it's like a dial where you can say, okay, this makes sense for me, this doesn't. But yeah, sorry, I'm still talking in a slightly mysterious way because I can't do the specifics yet, but I'm looking forward to share this, really looking forward. It has been quite a piece of work and super, super smart people. I'm the least of them working on this. So I'm very, very happy to get this into the discussion. I wanted to at least say hi today.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
From an agenda standpoint, I think everybody's got access to the minutes. I put them in the chat. I consider them approved because they're pretty much easy to go find when you want to find them. I think the other bit we've already talked about is the governing board update. There was mentions of other projects or other parts of the ecosystem that are moving along. It's nice to see and learn about. I think I'll try to see if I can get an update from them. I don't know if we have a standard template from the governing body's output, but if we do, I'll see if I can snag a copy if we're not already receiving it. I don't think I've seen one yet. And then the last bit is, as I said, BWI is in 18 days or whatever, the 7th of May. The one thing I would add to that part of the discussion is our expectations are to walk out with an agreement towards a path. I think most likely we're going to have a common criteria conversation. That's probably going to be what they're going to recommend. For them to do a specific technology profile, they do a bit of research on it. Now they've already done some. It's already not like this is brand new to the BSI. It's just a different group than the ones that's traditionally done things like the HSMs and key management systems and other stuff that are dealing with cryptography at rest and in flight. The CC seems to be been done by a compute group, not one of the security groups. So that's the part we'll see if we can get some normalization out of that path forward. But my expectation is it's really going to be on us to see how far we want to take it with them. NATO, we also have a path with them. So I reached out last week. I just waiting for feedback from one of their liaisons. We want to try to talk to their standards body. They do a couple different types of big picture things like D32, which is a framework, for lack of a better word, that allows NATO countries to embrace global cloud, not just local cloud, and what requirements they have there. And they have yet to add things like CC to that. So it's something we want to take the advantage of leaning in a little bit and see what we can do to influence. They are 32 nations. They act independently, yet they have their common enterprise together that they work with. So it's almost like in a 33rd country, that last enterprise. The last one that I didn't put an update on the slides yet, which is ANSI in France. Haven't gotten a date yet, but we're trying to do something similar we do with BSI for sometime in May, before the French disappear and all summer. They never stick around. I worked for I worked for Talis for 18 years, so I was used to very long summers.
Hey, Solomon, my wife is French, so be mindful. I'm kidding.
So is mine. So is mine.
I have a lot of French. I have a lot of French in my family.
Trust
too.
me, I go when we go there like in July and August. It's like, where's everybody? So
It's very funny. The emails get a lot lighter when you work for a French company in the summer. That's for sure. But yeah, no. So ANSI, the wrinkle we have with ANSI is they've put out an opinion, particularly from a cloud provider's perspective, that confidential compute is not considered trusted if you don't trust the operator of the cloud, the physical data center controls. So it's not like it's foreboding, but particularly it's not going to be Secnum Cloud level of security, because Secnum Cloud is French owned, French operated. In our case, Google is providing the software and the hardware, but they run everything, so they trust themselves. So for them, it works, but it doesn't work as a general purpose technology. You've got to take Secnum Cloud. So we want to see if we can find another path there. Like, is there another way that we can work together to get more of the market? Because not everything's going to go into the Secnum Cloud. It's very expensive. It's not fit for everybody. But there's still going to be, I think, data in use opportunities that we could help influence. So it's things like that. When I look across that spectrum in Europe, like there's a lot of opportunity, but it's really fragmented there too. Just how they've adopted it, what are they having opinions on? So if you guys have any other suggestions for regulatory bodies to go after, we're all ears. I've explicitly not listed ISO, because there was always some efforts that were started, and I'm going to support them. But I also know that when it comes to ISO, it's a long game. It's a bigger than a short term. You kind of get something done in a quarter or two. It's multiple years usually to get a standard that you can build upon, certify, train, all of that. So any suggestions, please, I am all ears. Okay, cool. I didn't have anything else on the agenda for today. Sort of wrapping out the CCAF, I guess, is the last thing. Michael, do you have any comments or thoughts on anything before we dive into the CCAF and our next step?
I don't have anything else right now.
Cool. Yeah, I think the action I took up from the GBs, I told them I would be sending out the I guess we're gonna call it the CAF or just CAF. CAF. I don't know.
Let's call it CAF.
I go with CAF. Yeah. So we're gonna send the CAF out. I propose doing it today. I'm gonna send it to the TAC and the GB so that everybody's got a copy of the most recent. Most of them already have access to the doc, and I'm just gonna open it up for sort of secondary comment. I think I'm very happy where it is. I think what the call to action, though, I'm going to put that at the bottom. I think what we want to do is put in there, okay, we're soliciting, the governing board and the TAC to work with us on a common destination with regulators. So we need, I believe, some kind of secondary document that'll probably get into the technicals and whatnot. So, but this gives us the framework and the roadmap, I hope. That's it. Any other topics, thoughts, concerns?
If we can, if Evan and Jens have an opportunity, review that CACAF and add any comments, suggestions, feedback to it. I think add some of the stuff that you talked about earlier regarding internal feedback that you were receiving.
Yep.
I think would be highly beneficial.
Absolutely.
As we look to it. And Jens, you may have, I don't know if I noticed you had already joined or not, but one of the things that we probably do want to do for that document is make it clear it's not another standards document that is really meant to provide guidance, to be that translation layer between the engineering and the architecture community and the regulator assessor community on how to think about this and what they should be looking for to gain their assurance before they put their name on that dotted line.
Yeah, I just requested access on them.
Okay.
Cool.
Great.
I will make sure you got it.
Makes sense.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for time today.
Sorry, just okay,
Yeah,
just
please.
very. I mean, and I think all the regulators you mentioned, in Europe, I think that's the starting point is great. Singapore has always also been very strong, so I don't know if it's
Yeah.
something that not immediately. Let's like see what we can do, obviously, as soon as possible. But I think that's something that's well, I think it could be very interesting. Because just again through
Great.
conversations I had with the government there, it's been very interested in. They tend to be more on the PET, the privacy enhancement technology side of
Right.
things, but we've had meetings with them on computational computing, and they seemed very interested. So, anyway, just a thought there in terms of.
Awesome. No, it's a good point. Yes, they're definitely on those. I think it's become a point where I think probably just need to put together a spreadsheet. Like, hey, here's a list of all
Yeah.
the ones we have current opportunities or engagements with. Here's a pipeline that we want to go after. What are the triggering things that actually
I
make us
had
go after
one.
them? So,
Yeah, I had one that I created inside Chase here that listed out all the regulatory bodies that had mentioned not just confidential computing, but data obfuscation and use like all the little buzzwords. Because I use it to help frame some of the conversations I have internally. Um, as you can imagine, lines of business tend to move on two things when there's profit or when somebody with a bigger stick tells them to. And so use that as a means to help frame the conversation with them around the Monetary Authority of Singapore mentioning it, or DORA mentioning it, or GDPR mentioning it to know where they play in. So I'll see if I can dig that up and share that back out, Salman.
that'd be
So
awesome.
hopefully we'll cut down on some of the work there on creating that spreadsheet.
Cool. Yeah, if you have something it sounds like it's already got some comprehensive information. So I'd love to take it back. Fill
Yeah.
up on somebody else's work.
Well, and one of the things though that I do share is that a lot of the frameworks right now use the where possible, where appropriate, business use case. They give all the wiggle room, which oftentimes, unfortunately, has the effect of them saying, "Yeah, well, nobody's telling me to do it. Get on down the road," right?
Right.
So I'm working internally here to write a controls objective around data and use protections. That'll help drive some of it, but getting back to the one of the things that Jens was talking about, and Abe, I'm sure is facing as well at AMD, is that the technology behind the use cases still doesn't quite fit, and so we don't want to quote unquote break ourselves into jail by writing a requirement that we can't.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Damn right. Yeah, we don't want to leave anybody behind either. Like I think.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, totally. I mean, the point of this, I think, is not to. I don't want to make it shorter, but meeting, but the point is also having a North Star, right? I think
Yeah.
that's something that the
Mm-hmm.
ecosystem will build towards too, whether it's silicon vendors, like hardware vendors, cloud vendors, enterprise, whatever. Like it just at least having a general direction we go to, and that's where we want to get. As you mentioned, Solomon, about like encrypting storage was just like 20 years ago. I was like, yeah, what's that? Nowadays it's unthinkable, right? So
Right.
not to have it. So that's where we want to get to. Hopefully, we will do our best that it will not get that long, but
Right.
definitely that's something like that, right? That it's just kind of here's the North Star. All the ecosystem is aligned. Ecosystem. Many in the ecosystem are aligned to, even competitors are working together. As I mentioned, I think that's a strong message as well from a positioning towards the regulators, because when they see, as I said, in each of the set of the components, or like as I said, cloud vendors, software vendors, hardware vendors, even if they're competing, but they believe in this technology, that's to be, I'm wearing a little bit of my marketing and messaging hat here, but I think that's really a very, very strong message.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thanks everybody for the time today. I'll go ahead and
Yeah.
wrap it up. Michael, thank you as always for the minutes. So
Yeah.
I'll
As soon
make
as
sure
the
that.
video is uploaded, I'll get them translated, and then I'll actually put them in the right place. do that this time.
I'm gonna probably reorganize our folder too. We got just a bunch that look the
Yeah.
same, on the same room. So yeah, we'll
Yeah.
organize
Can you
I'll
post
try to
the folder actually in the link or in Slack? I don't know if you use Slack, Solomon, but
I do use Slack. I can send that
yeah.
to you.
Okay. I'll reach out to you on Slack as well. So just
Perfect.
so because the history of the chat and the call is not persistent. So
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
All right. Cheers.
All right.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.